Rise and Fall of Pinya. Have you ever wondered how someone can become rich overnight and fall into disaster the next day? This is the story of a young man who made just one mistake, and it changed his life forever. Welcome to Afri Vibez. If you love powerful, emotional, and life-changing stories, then this one is for you. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on our next thrilling story. Now, let's begin. Pinya's dream and his biggest mistake. Pinya was a young man working as a cleaner in a major logistics company in Kigali. Despite his humble job, he was hardworking, respected by his colleagues, and deeply trusted by his boss. One day, he came up with an idea. Instead of receiving his salary every month, he asked his boss to save it for him and give him the full amount at the end of the year. His boss, impressed by his financial discipline, agreed. Months passed, and Pinya worked tirelessly without receiving a salary. However, he had a small side hustle that helped him cover his daily needs, rent, food, and minor expenses. Finally, after a long year of patience, he requested his money, eager to enjoy the holiday season. Pinya was originally from Rusizi and couldn't wait to visit his family after a long time apart. But when he saw the huge amount of money in his hands, everything changed. The birth of a millionaire, Pinya had never seen so much money at once. Overwhelmed with excitement, he lost all sense of control. In his mind, he had joined the ranks of the rich. He thought, "This money will never run out." Feeling invincible, he made his first reckless decision. He quit his job with arrogance, convinced he would never need his boss again. "I'm done working for someone else. It's time to enjoy life and build my own business," he told himself. The first thing he did? He bought the most expensive smartphone he could find. For the first time in his life, he was dining in the finest restaurants, drinking the most expensive whiskey, and checking into luxurious hotels. He even started posting on Facebook, "Who is still hungry or thirsty in this world?" His thoughts were now clouded by pride and extravagance. New life, new women, and a new disaster. On Christmas Eve, Pinya, now completely transformed, decided he wanted to be with the most beautiful women in Kigali. That night, he called Loli, a stunning woman who often hung around his boss. "Loli, I know I may not be your type, but come, let's celebrate. I'll give you whatever you want. Just trust me, you'll have the best night of your life." Loli, who had always known Pinya as a simple cleaner, hesitated. But after seeing his expensive lifestyle on social media, she agreed to meet him. That night, they stayed in a luxury hotel. The drinks flowed endlessly, the food was served in excess, and the money was spent recklessly. Loli made one thing clear: her company wasn't free. But for Pinya, no price was too high. He wanted her in his bed at all costs. That night, he got what he wanted. The next morning, he woke up. Loli was gone. From riches to rags in a matter of days. With a hangover clouding his thoughts, Pinya continued spending without care. He never checked how much was left in his money bag, convinced he had plenty. Then came New Year's morning. He reached into his small money bag, and reality hit him like a slap in the face. The cash was nearly gone. Worse still, he hadn't even saved enough to travel back home to Rusizi. Panicked, he decided, "If I can't go home, I might as well enjoy my last meal." He ordered pizza, laughing to himself. "If I can't afford the trip, at least I can eat well one last time." But he had forgotten one crucial thing. He had already quit his job. On January 3rd, his landlord knocked on his door. "You're 2 days late on rent. Pay up, bro." Pinya, sweating, ran to his money bag, hoping for a miracle. All he found were a few coins, 450 Rwandan francs. Just enough to buy a matchbox, which he had used to light cigarettes with Loli. His heart sank. His dreams of wealth had crumbled before his eyes. The breaking point. The money was gone. No investments, no savings, no job. His landlord was threatening to kick him out. He had nothing to eat. His once glamorous life was now a nightmare. Desperate, Pinya thought of a crazy idea. Maybe I should go fishing at Nyabugogo. Who knows? Maybe I'll catch something to eat. Despite growing up near Lake Kivu, he had never fished in his life. He spent the entire day at Nyabugogo, but caught nothing. That night, he made a heartbreaking decision. He was going to end his life. A shocking turn of events. He locked himself in his small room, grabbed an electric cable, and pressed a metal nail into the socket. A powerful shock hit him, and he collapsed, unconscious. Luckily, neighbors saw smoke coming from his house and broke in just in time. They rushed him to the hospital, where doctors fought to save his life. When he regained consciousness, Pinya realized something even worse. He had no money to pay his hospital bills. Panicked, he decided to run. Early one morning, he slipped out of his hospital bed and sprinted toward the exit. As he dashed across the road, bam! A speeding car hit him, sending him flying onto the pavement. Doctors and nurses rushed outside to find Pinya lying at the hospital entrance. Pinya woke up feeling pain all over his body. He was lying on a hospital bed, his fingers covered in wounds, and his leg felt as heavy as a pile of stones. He tried to remember how he got there, and suddenly, memories of what had happened came back, like a bad dream. He had tried to escape from the hospital without paying, but a car hit him and brought him back to where he was running from. Now, he was an unwanted patient, someone in the hospital who had no money to pay. As days passed, life became harder for Pinya. The doctors treated him badly because he was broke. Hunger was eating him up, but no one cared. Even the nurses only treated him because it was their job, not because they felt sorry for him. One day, the hospital decided to discharge him. They handed him his papers and told him he had to find a way to pay. Pay with what? He thought. He had no job and no friends left. With no other option, he said goodbye to life in Kigali and stepped into the streets, where the homeless fought every day to survive. Pinya walked out of the hospital with no idea where to go. He stood by the roadside in Nyabugogo, watching other homeless people sitting around. Some were begging, others were sleeping on garbage piles. 2 weeks passed, and Pinya became one of them. He walked around hungry, sometimes stealing small things just to have food. He hated himself. He remembered how he used to show off on Facebook saying, "Who wants to eat or drink? I got you." Now, he had nothing. Now, he spent his days begging for water and a piece of bread. When he went a whole week without bathing, people moved away from him because of his bad smell. That's when he knew he had lost all dignity. One day, as he sat under a shade near the bus station, a man approached him. He was an older man with a small house nearby. He looked at Pinya and said, "I see you are in trouble. Tell me if I can help." Pinya had no choice. He broke down in tears. The man took him home, gave him water, clean clothes, and some food. It was the first time in a long while that Pinya felt human again. After a few days, The man offered Pinya a small job as a house helper. Pinya worked hard, determined to rebuild his life. But even though he was grateful, something still hurt him. He had food now, but he wished he could return to his old life. 6 months later, Pinya was stronger. He had learned that life is about choices. He chose to be humble, to work hard, and to avoid the mistakes of his past. One day, while returning from the market, he met his former boss. The man stopped and looked at him in shock. "Pinya? Is that you?" Pinya froze, feeling ashamed. "Yes, it's me," he said quietly. His boss studied him for a moment. "You have changed." Pinya dropped his shopping bag and burst into tears. "I regret everything I did." His boss then said something that changed his life forever. "Come back to work." Pinya looked up, surprised. "Sir, are you serious? If you have learned your lesson, I need you." Those words turned Pinya's life around. He realized that second chances should never be wasted. He stood up and walked back to his old job, but this time with a new purpose. He had fallen to the lowest point, suffered deeply, and now he was rising again, stronger and wiser. Life is a series of choices. One mistake can change everything, but you should never lose hope. As long as you are still breathing, you have another chance to make things right. If you love this story, subscribe to Afri Vibez for more inspiring and emotional stories. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. We have more incredible stories coming your way.